Yeah, Sean Salisbury here. Obviously, well, you know it's me. I guess I don't need the introduction, but for those of you who don't, you just found me. Well, here we are on Unpaved with Sean Salisbury. But today is every day I love it, but there's certain days you come, you've been waiting a long time. I may say that's with some guests that I've been waiting years for. Like we had Chipper Jones on yesterday, and that was awesome. And my next guest, I'm sure, was a fan as well. But you look forward to the ways the bandwidth you can have with the conversation. You get a football guy and he wants to talk football and maybe life. Then you get a guy who knows football, life, baseball, golf, 70s, 90s, 80s, has it all and a great perspective. Super 70s at Super 70s Sports on Twitter, X, which is as good a follow as there is, period. Okay, that's one. You can get his show on outkick.com. It's the Ricky Cobb Show, which I've been fortunate to be a guest a handful of times on there as well. And I don't know how he comes up with the shit he comes up with, but I'm here for every second of it. One of my favorite follows on the planet, and grateful to join us here on Unpaved. Can't wait till we get into this conversation. Ricky Cobb from the Ricky Cobb Show, and obviously super70store.com. You can get all the great old school merch as well. Ricky, welcome in, brother. It's great to have you on. I always look forward to my opportunities with you, but I'm so grateful you get to join me today. Let me start here, brother. What gave you the idea when Twitter came out that this is how you were going to go about this handle and this approach, because it's brilliant?
Man, I had Twitter all wrong initially. And first of all, thank you. And look, I mean, following Chipper Jones, I intentionally walked Chipper Jones.
We did. We put up 4 for Chipper to get to you, brother. We love it. But you know what? The problem is they don't realize that's like going from Dave Parker to Willie Stargell to give a 70s phrase.
That might be the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me, Sean. Man, I had Twitter totally wrong in the beginning because I started an account just for myself several years before Super 70s began. And initially I wasn't even that into it. You know, I farted around with it a little bit. I thought, I don't know. It was so different in the beginning. You know, of course, those were the nascent days of social media. Anyway, you know, I remember being on MySpace not that long before that. So what led to the beginning of it, Sean, is, you know, as you know, I was a college professor, and I did that for 21 years. And about halfway into that career, now that it's done, I can say that, I was on Christmas break. It was 2013, and I was just looking for something to do, I guess. I think I was bored. I enjoyed that job, but I was looking for something to do. And so I created this Twitter account just to entertain myself, man. I had no aspirations that this was going to be anything. I certainly didn't think that it was going to change my entire fucking life, man. Because, you know, at that point in time, I was in my early 40s, had 5 kids. I was a college teacher and far enough into that career that I figured that was it, man. You know, when you're in your 40s and you're over 10 years into a career and your career is academics, you don't end up hosting a talk show. You know, it's just not something that happens. But here we are, man. I'm the classic underdog. Somebody told their friend and they told their friend, and somebody retweeted a tweet and somebody else thought it was funny and they retweeted it. And, you know, 10 years later, man, 10 plus years later now, hard to believe, you know, I have an entirely different life, man, just because I started a Twitter account.
Well, tell me, how has it changed your life? I mean, financially, how has it changed? I know your approach, like you said, the Twitter account, but how has it impacted you to where it literally has changed your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly changed my life financially. You know, that's for sure. It has helped. I mean, you know, I'm not making snow angels in my, money silo like Scrooge McDuck or anything, but I'm doing better than I was doing before I started doing this. I can certainly tell you that. And, you know, I created a monster and now I have to feed it is what I always tell people. You know, that content in the early days, people would say, yeah, I love you guys. You know, back when Super 70 Sports was starting to get known a little bit, but the name Ricky Cobb I was still sort of the Wizard of Oz. You know, nobody really knew who Super 70 Sports was there for those first several years as it started to get a little bit of traction. And people would say, I love you guys. You guys are the best. You guys crack me up. And it's on the one hand, it's a nice compliment for people to think that you're a staff of people churning out content. And then on the other hand, at a certain point, your ego kind of kicks in and you're like, well, I want people to know I'm the guy who's doing this, but it's a lot of work, Sean. And it, to this day, it is morning until night, and I've got to create that content that people have come to expect. And I love doing it, but it's a lot. And then of course it's a far different thing to be sending messages out to the entire world and engaging with people and getting to know people and form relationships and friendships with people who in many cases I've been a fan of for years or was watching on TV for years. I mean, Sean, yourself, I've been I watched you play in the NFL. I enjoyed your work. I remember when you and Rosie
in
were
Chicago.
on the air here in
Chicago.
Chicago.
Great dude. Trojan too. There you go.
Man, I remember driving to school one day and you guys were talking about Andres Nocioni and you were going Rosioni.
That's right.
Cracking up on my commute, man. So just being here, knowing you, it's just there's that little bit of surreal aspect of it where you've left one world and you have just sort of wandered your way into another. Sitting in New Orleans this year, 5 feet across from Lawrence Taylor, as he's looking me in the eye and telling me a story about him and Joe Montana. I could sitting next to Fergie Jenkins in Wrigleyville on opening day for the Cubs this year, talking to him about 10-cent beer night in Cleveland in 1974. I mean, there's a million of those kinds of things. A couple of months ago in New York, sitting in the green room of Fox News Saturday Night, talking to Rudy Rudiger. Right. And he's sitting there telling me the story of how the movie got made. And there's a part of you in the back of your mind where you're pinching yourself a little bit, where you're thinking, man, I'm sitting here on 6th Avenue in New York City, and Rudy is telling me the story of how this thing came to be. And so there's just this element of it that even 10 years into it, Sean, that's just kind of surreal.
And you talk about that content day and night. Don't I know, brother? Because I feel like I stay up a little later than I should, waiting for the next one so I could reach it. Yeah. I mean, the stuff you come up with is off the charts. And I fell in love with that Captain Andrew Luck. That one, Captain. I'm sure you. And then when he retired, we're like, well, what are we going to do? So we can't have you. We got to have you for 50 more years. Do your kids? You said 5 kids. My 3 children. When you're on playing football or on TV. It's like everybody knows more about it. The kids like, I hear my dad talk about it all the time. They'll watch once in a while, but they don't set their clock by it. My kids, Dad, I love it. And they want to talk about betting and all the stuff that kids want to talk about football, who you picking and watching games. But it's not like when I'm with you, my kids, did you see what I posted on Twitter? No, Dad, I haven't seen your Twitter in a week. I'm too busy with my own life. Do your kids come back and say that their buddies are like, Dad, that was really cool? Do you find your kids in it, or are they just your dad and it's just a job you got to do every day?
Yeah, initially it was a big deal. Dad's on TV. And then that wears off real quick for your kids. That's what I've learned. I've got all daughters, 5 daughters, 13
Oh, my
22.
gosh, you poor man.
Yeah, man. That's, hey, look, I've got my own WNBA expansion team. So, since it's catching on now, maybe I can become the Pat Riley of this family if we can do something. But no, man, it's like, I think to your kids, no matter who you are, you're ultimately just dad. And so once the novelty of dads on TV wore off, which wore off pretty quickly for them, I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to be on such and such or whatever. And I don't even think it registers. Now, what will register for them sometimes is when they'll find out that one of their teachers knows who I am.
Right.
Or, something like that. I think that is the moment that kind of reaches through to them, and they'll tell me, oh my God, it's like one of my friends, dads can't believe that I'm your kid or whatever. So they do enjoy it to an extent, but as far as are they consuming my content, Yeah, they're not helping me with those ambitions personally.
Amen. With all those connections with the younger, I'm like, man, can I get you guys to retweet everything? Go on there and say, follow my exactly. Now they love the perks. Oh, Dad, man, I'm going to play golf. Can you get me on this call? Oh, Pops, can I? Yeah. Oh, we're going to a game. Hey, what do you think about those tickets to the SC game? Or I'm headed out. That part. Then they lean on the perks, which is awesome. But I love it. I always used to kid my kids. I call them Venmo. You know, when my middle boy would say, "Hey, Dad, how you doing? What's going on? I hope you're calling me about." You know, we're going to spend time together and all that. And I love him. I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but he will call and say, you know, this part's coming. I got 2 boys and a daughter. And it's like, hey, Pops, how you doing, man? Just want to make check on to see how you're doing. I'm doing good. How you doing? And the conversation goes, but there you're waiting for the, oh, but by the way, by the way, coming. Dad, can you send me or what do you think about this? My buddies and I are going to Vegas, that hotel. So it's all fun, but you're exactly right. They ain't forwarding my content and make it goes. But when the novelty wears off, you're just a Pops and you're my dad. And then now they want to debate me over certain sports stuff. It's no longer, oh yeah, you're right, Dad. You know more. They think they know more, which is they probably do. All right, Ricky, 3 wish lists. I'm sure we all have our wish list. If I said you get 3 guys, give me 4, 2 alive and 2 passed away. Your wish list of the guests on your show, 2 that are still alive that you can't wait to get or working on, and 2 passed away that you wish you could bring back to life.
Oh man, that's a great question, Sean. Alive, I want Reggie Jackson. You know, I want Reggie Jackson. He was my first favorite player in baseball, and that was my introduction to baseball, summer of 1978. And, you know, growing up in rural Kentucky, the Cincinnati Reds were the nearest thing we had. You know, it's like I don't know, it felt like a 17-hour drive to me to go to Riverfront Stadium. It wasn't that bad. But that was the only stadium that I really got to go to when I was a kid. And, of course, there was no interleague play back in the good old days. And so I never had an opportunity to see Reggie play in person. I'd love to have Reggie on. I'd love to have Charles Barkley on. As well. Charles Barkley is just a guy that, you know, of all the people that I've never met that I'm sure I would get along well with, Charles Barkley is somewhere near the head of that list. So I would love to have an opportunity to sit down with Charles and, you know, pick his brain about a few different issues. Now, as far as passed away goes, you know, in the world of sports, I mean, Muhammad Ali, you know, certainly would have been one. I did get to meet Muhammad years ago, and it was it's a great experience. He's an incredible guy, but to have an opportunity to talk to Muhammad Ali would have been great. And then in the category of passed away, geez, in sports, Pete Rose. Pete Rose was on my bucket interview list. And, unfortunately we lost him before I ever had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him. But, there's a lot, but off the top of my head, those 4 would be, I'll probably think of somebody, 2 minutes after we're done today. But those 4 right there would, that'd be pretty good, man. I couldn't complain if I'd had the opportunity to talk to those guys.
And I think part of the reason aside from I love your content, not only the funny part of it, but every time I go to it, and I'm gonna read it at some point, we'll read a few tweets on here that just so people get an idea is we have so many similarities when I thought that the names sometimes you'd bring up like today. And I can tell you this, let me back up a little bit, and not as a pat on the back, but 3 of your 4, not Muhammad Ali, who I've been in the same roof, and I have a boxing glove with his autograph, but I've never had to interview him, been able to, God rest his soul, because I'm with you, is our similarities to who we love. You're a Stabler guy. I'm a Kenny Stabler guy. Grew up, I'm a silver and black Raider fan. And I go back mentioning your Reds. I can name more baseball, Pittsburgh Pirates, We Are Family, Cincinnati Reds lineups, and those World Series when they were the Big Red Machine, Oakland A's lineups, the New York Mets, all those far better than I can football, far better, honestly. And so you mentioned Pete Rose. I've been fortunate that Pete became a great friend, and I had him in studio for 2 hours in studio because he became a friend as opposed to just that, because all the years of running in sports. And that was one of mine because I grew up loving him. And Ricky, the stories that I know you love, after a time with him, you would want him on to stay on. You know, it's one of those. And he tells it. You've heard the Joe DiMaggio story, I'm sure. Have you?
I'm not sure if I have or not, Sean.
Well, real quick, and it's worth sharing. This is your time, but I just want that. And he tells it far better than I do. So we're talking about Pete going, and I don't want to screw it up because when Pete tells it, you're so engaged, right? And we're on a show that he can't quite say a few words. We can say whatever we want on here, but when I had him on local radio, but people wanted to hear, and he was in town, and when we talked, so he's telling this Joe DiMaggio story, and they wanted him to go to Vietnam when Pete was a young player to go over and entertain the soldiers, right? Hell yeah. Who's going to pass on that? Pete said, man, it's hot. Going into a jungle during a war. I don't want to go to Vietnam. And then the people who were putting it on said, well, Joe DiMaggio is going to be there. And Pete loved Joe DiMaggio. Kind of like Bob Costas carries a Mickey Mantle card. Pete loved Joe. And so he said, well, Joe DiMaggio is going, I'm going. So to push the story forward, they're in Vietnam. And Joe DiMaggio says, I got a shower. Pete says, Joe, what the fuck are you talking about? We're in the middle of a jungle. There's no shower here. He goes, I need a shower. And so I'll be damned if they don't find with the old school and in Vietnam where Pete's pulling on the thing and the water's tipping on. He's showering a naked Joe DiMaggio. And so he says, okay, I think the story ends there. And I think the story does too. He's giving Joe DiMaggio a shower. And he says, Sean, you're giving a guy a shower. Joe DiMaggio wants a shower. Shit, Joe DiMaggio is going to get a shower. And Pete says, and while I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I realize, I look down and I think, because it's just natural. You see a guy, and he says, I realized there was a man hanging from a penis. And the way he says it, and I fell on the floor. And Pete set up the story far better. But the gist was that he said, and then we thought, well, no wonder Marilyn Monroe likes Joe DiMaggio. But he said there was a man hanging from a penis, which everybody knows he wasn't hung like a field mouse. And so he told that in studio, and there wasn't a soul alive that wasn't crying, laughing. And that's one of a million stories Pete has. Barkley, if you like Charles now, you're going to love him 100 times more. And let's see, your other one, Muhammad, Charles, Pete, and who was the last one?
Reggie.
Oh, Reggie Jackson. So I had the same thing. Reggie turned me down years ago in Phoenix at a spring training game for an autograph when the A's were playing, because that was growing up, loved the A's as well, even though I was a diehard Red Sox fan because my family was. Well, I go to a game at Phoenix Municipal Stadium and go to get Reggie's autograph. And there was a bunch of kids there, and he walked by, and I thought I'd been snubbed, right? I'm a kid. And so all the years, I wasn't mad at Reggie because I loved the A's, but it was like, dang, what a bummer. And all the years later, we were fortunate to be in the movie Benchwarmers together with Sandler's movie. Reggie was in that movie. And then I got to was in Milwaukee at the All-Star game. And I'm sitting up in the restaurant that stares down. You've been there, haven't you? Have you been to Milwaukee's ballpark, Miller Ballpark?
I was just there a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Well, where the glass is and beyond the left field fence where there's like a restaurant there. I'm sitting there with one of Danettes, Paul Paps, and we're sitting there, and we're sitting with Reggie, and he's signing baseballs for people and gave us one. Matter of fact, it might be up in here, and I've never been a huge memorabilia guy, but we started talking about baseball and Rick about those A's and Rudy and Gene Tennis and Sal Bando, the current game, and he, like Charles and like Pete Rose, the storyteller, and you're listening to Reginald Martinez Jackson talk, that the Reds and the A's were your Reds team, that rivalry that was going on. So I can tell you this, you keep doing, dude, they're going to flock to you, because now it's getting to the point where people want to be on the Ricky Cobb show, which is on Outkick.com, and you can get at Super 70 Sports, which is as good a Twitter follow as there is. So you'll get those guys on. Unfortunately, two of them are still alive. Unfortunately, the other two aren't, but I can just tell you would have loved Pete Rose. Ricky Cobb joining us, dude. What would your house look like if let's say you're building a brand new spread? Because that 70s, I see the vintage stuff that you have. And would you have shag carpet? Would there be linoleum floors? If you were building us that house, what would it look? Because I'll see somewhere you'll show the couch of your grandmother's and the stuff you do. What would your house kind of look like if it matched your Twitter account? And would it really look like that?
Man, listen, some things are better through the prism that we look into the past with than they are actual practice, and shag carpet is one of them, because it was like there'd be shit buried in your carpet like Vietnamese landmines, Sean. You're walking around stepping on Legos and Hot Wheels and God knows what else is lurking.
And then you had to get the rake out to rake it, right? To find it. Right?
You had to have a grounds crew just to go in and watch, Archie Bunker that night, So shag carpeting is a lot of fun to tweet about. I have affectionate memories of it, and that shit would get fucked up too. Like after a while, I remember our shag carpeting, which we did have when I was growing up. It was like 3 different shades of green. It was like a dark green, sort of a medium shade of green, kind of a light yellow, and that shit got matted like a.
It looked like the rough at the golf course where it matted down.
Yeah, and it would get matted like the gallery and walked over it, or whatever. And it's like, oh, Ricky caught a break here. His ball's setting up. I think he's going to have an approach. But it got kind of matted. Like you go over to somebody's house and their dog comes in and they're like, hey, buddy, and you look down and that dog is like 18 years old and past the sell-by date. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, look at him. Hey, buddy. And you're thinking, I don't know. There's some denial going on in this household. Our carpet hit that point. And so shag carpeting, when it starts to decline, it ain't good. So I probably would avoid the shag carpeting, man. What I miss are I don't know, maybe I get some avocado green appliances, Sean.
Oh, is there any doubt? You've got to have avocado green, dude, and they got to be all over the place.
If you want to go harvest gold, I'm not going to argue with you, Sean, but it's got to be one of those, because everything in the 70s, those were the colors. So you'd have that, and then I think the thing I miss the most is less the interior decoration and more the cars.
Oh, yeah.
Cars have no soul anymore, Sean. It used to be an art form, and now in the pursuit of ruthless efficiency, we've just got all these cars on the highway today that, they all look alike. So I would love to get myself like a Ford LTD wagon and you take that fucker out on the road, going about 85 miles an hour with that power steering. You move your fucking finger on the steering wheel and you're in a ditch. You know how that was.
Oh,
Sean.
yeah.
You
drive with your knee too, bam, and you hit it too hard.
You got that gear shift that's like over here, and you're cranking that fucker around. Maybe ashing your cigarette out the window while you're listening to a Gordon Lightfoot 8-track. That was living right there, man. Like,
and then you'd have the big heavy door, right, Ricky?
Oh, my God.
That door weight, I've seen your tweet on it. Dude, you're like the LTD. You would open that, honest to God, it took 4 people to close it. There's the family truckster, but it was brutal. And it weighed 150 pounds at least.
Like the same weight of like the bank vault door. You know what I mean? And I've tweeted before. Yeah, the door was heavier than the entire car that you drive today, practically, and of course had an ashtray built into it too, Sean, because you weren't going to build a car in America in the 1970s.
Automatic roll. I mean, the manual roll up the window that your triceps were yoked after you were done with it in a hot day.
Right. Yeah, aux. What's the aux? I got a cigarette, lighter here if you need that, and you were listening to whatever was on the radio too, man. But if you didn't have your 8-track in, so there was a soul to that, man. Probably getting about 7 miles an hour to the gallon, but you had a lot of fun getting there.
I love it.
Anyway,
here's one of them, guys. We've got a picture of the Manning family at a young age. Archie's at that time looked like he was playing. It says, Archie Manning is the Abraham of quarterbacks. In 100 years, all 32 teams will be starting one of his descendants. And mine, too, is here. You got this one in here, and this was 5 hours ago, and it just kind of happens to hit me. It's that Salisbury steak, that banquet dinner in the tinfoil that you'd set and you'd put it on a tray table while you're watching Archie Bunker. And it says, perhaps no meal has ever said it's 1971 and my wife just left me quite like this sumptuous feast. And I love when you put in, when you give me the cool, when you say that cool motherfucker, this sweet bastard. I got to find, I'm looking right now with one of your great ones. Let's see here. Dude, there's so many. I don't want to interrupt this and I don't mean to disrupt the show, but you got to see him. There's that Kenny Stabler one. Oh, and this one kind of hits the heart, and I know it does for you too. When I was a kid, there was a running back who could fly, true story, and it shows Walter Payton over the top. He was parallel to the ground on Detroit, and he said, true story, and he's literally flying in the air. But there are so many funny ones, dude, and you got to do some research to get this shit. Like you said, you're spending time because there's some epic ones, but your verbiage, there's no fucking way Fozzie is going to be able to produce license and registration. And Fozzie Bear at Sesame is looking outside like he's looking at the cop with Kermit like, what are you going to do? My man, I don't know where your brilliance comes from, but it is just these going. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I'm supposed to look at the stuff I'm looking for, but I'm looking for your shit because it's classic.
Well, man, I appreciate that. I don't know where it comes from either, to be honest with you. You know, I've heard people, I've always wished that I can't play an instrument. You know, I can sing a little karaoke. You know, you get a couple of drinks in me and I'll belt one out. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I love music. And I've always been fascinated by how somebody can write songs. And I've heard some of the songwriters that I admire, you know, talk about it and they're just like, well, you know, I just do it.
Right.
And, you know, you think to yourself, well, how, you know, Bob Dylan, you know, how did you write Desolation Row? How did like a Rolling Stone?
How'd you get in those feels? Right.
Yeah. You know, like where does that come from? And I'm not comparing myself to Bob Dylan by any means, but I think anybody who finds some sort of creative outlet in themselves anywhere or whatever your talent is, man, like I can't imagine you know, a lot of the things that you've done. I mean, not just through your broadcasting career, but, you know, I can't imagine standing in the pocket with guys like Reggie White or LT bearing down on you and trying to run an NFL offense, you know, and I could you know, we'll sit down one day. I have no doubt we will, man, or on a golf course or somewhere.
We will.
And I'll pick your brain about it because I'm fascinated. How can Sean do that? You know, I can't even imagine what that's like, how quickly you have to think and process and the skill that you have to make the throws and the pocket presence that's necessary and all of those things. So for me personally, you know, my gift is this. And thankfully I live in an era where it's useful, you know, Sean, because for like 99.99% of human history, people would have been like, that's great. Grab a plow, motherfucker. You know, or whatever, you know, like go kill something so we can eat tonight, funny boy.
Have you ever had your IQ measured? Honestly, I'm being serious about this. You're a professor. I'm being serious. I think about shit like this because I'm a whack job. Do you know what your IQ is?
I've never had it officially measured. I took a test one time from a book that I bought in Walden Books. It was a take-home IQ test. So I don't know how fucking accurate it is. So I don't want to sit here and claim that IQ because I'd be like some motherfucker who tells you that he's a 7 handicap and then he goes out
14
96. Yeah, you know. But it's over. You know, it's a little bit over 100.
Over what?
You know, so I'll give myself that. It's north of 100.
Well, yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it was like around 140.
That doesn't honestly, Judge, it doesn't surprise. When I started seeing it, when I first had seen you before we talked and met, I'm like, this dude's IQ is different. And I know, well, it's sports, but it wasn't just sports. It's the cleverness, and you got to be able to grab bag that. It's a different. You think different, and I absolutely love it. Okay, when you watch football on Sunday, well, first off, Saturday or Sunday, because I know what kind of sports fan you are. Aside from all this other stuff. What's better viewing for you now with all the NIL and all that? What's better viewing, Saturday or Sunday for you?
I'm an NFL guy, Sean, and I always have been. Now, you know, obviously that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate college football because I sure as hell do. But as I've gotten older, I have become more of an NFL guy. But I will say, hosting the Ricky Cobb show has brought college football more forward with me than it has been in a number of years, because obviously I've got to be well versed in it enough that I'm prepared to go out and discuss it during football season frequently. And so as I have started following the narratives more closely since I've been doing the show, some of that college football love that I had when I was a teenager is definitely been reinvigorated. But I'm an NFL guy more than a college guy. Now my co-host Ronnie T-Shirts, he's a college guy. He would go the exact opposite. So that's probably a pretty good marriage we have there is show spouses, because if I'm not talking college football, he's sure as hell always ready to.
Because at Super 70 Sports on X, and you can get him. You got the at super70sportstore.com, which has got some of the great vintage T-shirts and stuff that you want, and also you can get the Ricky Cobb show at Ricky Cobb at Outkick.com, which is phenomenal too. And I've been fortunate to be a guest on there a few times. Okay, when we talk about if you were going to watch Game 7s and like Super Bowl national, you get a sideline pass to the Super Bowl or the College National Championship one, and you get to roam up and down. You get maybe top of the whoever you wanted, but if you're in Fenway, you get the monster seat first row or whatever. But it's a Game 7 or a championship in any form in any sport. You can include golf, Wimbledon, I don't care, and it's only one, and you have to do that the rest of your life. But you can't go to championship games in any other sport. You can watch them on TV, you can't go. So they're giving you a lifetime pass, and then you get to go every year.
Ooh.
Which one is it?
Augusta.
Is it? Yeah, people don't know this. Ricky, this is your, like me, we were talking pre-show of my obsession, and to the point of it's almost an unhealthy obsession with golf apparel, golf balls, golf equipment, golf, all that stuff. I'm just engaged in it all day long. And so I asked you, and you used to play a lot, don't play as much, but you said that's your favorite as well. And I don't mean it's arrogant, but I've said it. I know as much about golf as I do football. And it's not a pat on the back. It's just fact because I watch it and study. I'm turning on. It doesn't matter if it's the women playing, an amateur. Hell, the Creators tournament yesterday on Golf Channel. I'm watching that at East Lake. So Augusta, why?
Man, Sean, you know why. My God, I mean, the history for starters. I had never been until last year. Last year was my first time at Augusta. And dude, there are certain few experiences in your life where as you're having it, it's almost like a religious experience, or where it is just so you can't believe it's so completely familiar, and yet you're experiencing it for the first time simultaneously. You know what I mean? I felt that way the first time I went to Wrigley Field years ago. I felt like I'd stepped inside the television set.
Right.
You know, you're looking around and it's like all of this looks familiar, but you're seeing it from a different angle.
You really did you get? I mean, was it like nervous for you? I know the first time I went to Wrigley and Fenway or Allen Fieldhouse, and I haven't been to Augusta yet. As much I haven't. So I had a different feel. I felt like I was literally at a cathedral or somewhere that you were not allowed to be. But it was epic. They let you into a private place. Yes.
I'll tell you a story. We were going in, we were staying at a house with a bunch of guys. And, one of those deals where I knew two of the guys, it was myself, Ronnie, my sidekick, guy who does my T-shirts, and his business partner, Ryan. And basically it was a whole bunch of guys crammed into a rental home in Augusta, like it was summer camp. And guys were going in, we were being treated by shout out to CJ, the guy who set us all up. And, he had, X number of passes. I don't know. I think there were 16 of us in the house. He had 8 passes. Guys would go in the morning and then they'd shuttle back home. And then 8 other guys would go. We were, doing this thing. And so I got to go a couple of days, but on Wednesday, one of the guys said, I wonder if we could get in today, this afternoon, maybe just a little bonus. We'll get in for, last practice round day. And so we went there and we're walking up, and some of these dudes have been there before. Some of them hadn't. It was a mix. I think we were in a group of like 8 dudes, maybe 3 of them had been before, some of them many times. And then there were a bunch of us that, it was our maiden voyage. And so we're walking in and they're like, well, I don't know. We knew some guy that was supposed to have some passes and whatever. And so then this one dude in front who'd been there a bunch of times said, well, maybe we can just get some passes. We can buy them off of people that are leaving. And so my buddy Ronnie reaches into his pocket, pulls out some bills, and is walking along, just kind of like waving them as people are walking out and we're walking in, and just saying like, anybody, or I'll give you this for your pass. Unless you're keeping it for a souvenir, you're not going to need it, a practice round pass. And he got stopped by Augusta. Listen, if Augusta was down if they had Augusta security at the border, problem would be solved in about 3 minutes. So he got kicked off the grounds, and I got kicked off the grounds with him because I was next to him. I was guilty by association. I just happened to be walking, and he didn't know.
It was like ninja-like, right? There was actually ninja-like.
A guy, and I don't know how much I should say here, though. I'll get kicked out again. But there was a plainclothes guy who came. He was just dressed like a regular Joe, and he just popped up, came over, and said, "You're going to have to leave. Whatever. I'm telling you right now. If we see you back here, we will call Augusta police, and you will go to jail." And I'm going to tell you something. And it's like, are you serious? Next thing I know, cameras come out, takes a picture of him, takes a picture of me. We're on Interpol.
So you're on the watch list.
We were on the watch list. So we turn and we're like, are you serious? And you can't take your cell phone with you into Augusta. You either have to lock it in a box outside or whatever. You can't walk the grounds. So I didn't even take my cell phone. My cell phone's back at the house. So is Ronnie's. So we get separated from our group. I'm going to tell you, the longest walk of my life was the walk. We walked all the way back around to town. And Ron is like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry, because he had hooked it up for me because he knew it was my dream.
Right.
And he said, I am so sorry. I didn't have any idea. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, Ron, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. I think I'm going to get a flight home. I've been banned, 5 minutes, and I'm banned from Augusta National for life. And I didn't even know what had happened. So anyway, long story short, he goes back in. I'm sitting outside. I didn't even want to go back in. I was just so defeated in that moment. He's like, well, he said, there's nothing to lose. I said, your freedom,
right.
Ron, they're going to haul you off. I thought I told you, motherfucker, that there's no ticket scalping here. Or whatever. So I sat down at the very, very perimeter, and the outside edge of Augusta, it runs right up to the, it's a little town. It runs right up to the road. So I'm sitting like right off the road. Don't even think that I'm on the Augusta property, and I'm waiting for Ron to either not come back or come back or whatever. And another dude in plain clothes comes over to me and says, are you all right? And I'm just kind of sitting there probably looking defeated. And he's like, are you all right, sir? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, well, can I help you? He's like, were you over on the other side of the property scalping tickets? And so it had, my picture evidently had already, that's how big a deal
it really is Interpol.
Yeah. And so I told him what had happened. And I think, I think he told me he was like state police or whatever. And, he was working security. He obviously believed me once he started talking to me. And so he was like, look, he's like, if I were you, I'd just come back tomorrow, whatever. You've got tickets. Cause once he found out I had tickets and we weren't professional scoundrels.
Right.
Yeah. He was like, look, I would just come back tomorrow. And I'm like, you telling me it's okay? And he's like, I can't tell you that, but I'm telling you that if you come back tomorrow. Anyway, Ronnie found the guy that kicked us out, explained that he was just a fucking idiot and not a criminal. and they forgave us and gave us the blessing to come back.
So
we still got to go. But I mean, you want to talk about your heart sinking, man. You wait 52 years, 53 years to get to Augusta National, and you are banished before you even get to see the course, man. It was one hell of a day, one hell of a weekend. But it didn't. All's well that ends well, man. But I'm here to tell you,
I love it. And
doesn't know, don't try to buy a ticket at Augusta.
You hear stories like that, Ricky, and you say, "Yeah, that can't be true." Well, you lived it, so they'll find you. It's like they pop out of nowhere with ninjas. I've heard the same story, but never personal story that it happened to that person. Yeah. Like, just a couple more minutes. I've kept you too long. I like to ask, and I asked Chipper this, but I like to ask people who I know love golf. Dream foursome. You gave me your dream guests, and you're not allowed to take them on the golf course. I want it to be current. You can give me both. Let's just. I'll keep it to both. First of all, if you're going to would Augusta be the place you wanted to play?
Well, Augusta is the one that I would most want to play. Second would be the old course at St. Andrews.
Okay, so let's stay Augusta since the story. We'll get two. You get Augusta with golfers, pro golfers.
Ooh, okay, excellent. Current pro golfers.
It's you and four more. You get 18 holes of them. Now you get four, so it's a fivesome, which they probably wouldn't allow there. But who are the four current golfers that are on the tee box with you that day at Augusta? Right. The four actors and musicians combination, that'll be the ones, and they got to be current, alive. That'll be the one we'll play at St. Andrews. So who are your four golfers current?
I like this. Okay, Scotty Scheffler, right out of the gate. Not just because I want to see what he can do with the golf ball that up close and personal and pick his brain, but he seems like such a grounded, just humble, decent. He's the kind of guy you'd want to have as your neighbor. He let you borrow his lawnmower. You know what I mean? He'd get your mail while you were in Hawaii, right? He's
the guy who snow blows your house while you're going your driveway. Right.
And then it's like, think nothing of it when you thank him, just like, no big deal. So Scotty, for a lot of reasons, he's my favorite golfer. So he'd be number one. Now, man, I've got a bunch that I like. Got to be current. Is that the rule? Does Tiger count as current at this stage of his?
Oh yeah. He's still playing and involved. He's on the the chairman of all the stuff. He's fair game.
Got to have Tiger. For obvious reasons, just to be able to tell people that you played 18 with Tiger Woods. But again, to pick his brain, that would be incredible. So I'd have to have him. If we're sticking with people who are only guys who are active now, man, this is a good one. Mickelson. I would want to play with Phil Mickelson. I think he would be a lot of fun. He'd probably, we know we'd have some good wagers going.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I'm all for that.
Out there, and then maybe Kevin Kistner, just so I could have somebody there that could relate to the fact that, even though he's a PGA winner, he's the common man. He's the everyman. He's got a good sense of humor. I think he would deflate some of the pressure. When I looked around and saw Scotty and Tiger and Phil, I'd look over at Kiz and say, all right, maybe I will be able to get the club back and get it through.
Right. And he'd be a blast because I can picture him jumping right in and being actually the life of the party too. I can. Yeah. Kids, I love it.
Guy. You need that guy.
Yep. Okay, now you're at old course.
All right.
And now it's got to be current. I know we mentioned Bob Dylan. See, if I just give me the foursome of Led Zeppelin and I'm all in, right? The original. Who's your give me your foursome actors / musicians at old course St. Andrews?
Okay. If I can have any actors, musicians, I'm going to take. Look, first of all, once in a while in your life, especially if we do Augusta first, I'm going to want to, sort of feel like I can hit a drive that's not just the drive of a 9-year-old after playing with those guys, because even Kisner's going to be blowing it past me. So I'm going to take Paul McCartney and Bob Dylan as the first two. Those are my two favorite living musicians. So not only will I get to meet McCartney and Dylan and talk to those guys, but they're in their 80s. So, you know, I'm going to be like Long John Daly.
Yeah.
You know, they're out there with their old man club with, you know, the shaft that's like a wet noodle, Sean, you know. So right away, it's going to be good.
Getting the old Bellata Max Fly too, right? The two-piece.
That's right. That's right. So it's going to feel great to be 100 yards further down the fairway as Bob Dylan is, you know, setting up for his second shot. So those two would be right there, man, like actors. And God, man.
While you're thinking, my two actors would be, just because Clint Eastwood's at the top of the list, because I know the Pebble Beach, and I had friggin' he's my guy. I just friggin' love every movie. It doesn't matter what he's in, I'm watching. And another guy that I just think, to talk to Denzel Washington about life and how good he is. It just, he's Scotty Scheffler. I mean, that he's Tiger. I've met him at a USC Ohio State game, and I was standing with Marcus Allen and a couple other celebrities. It was like one of these things are not like the other. It's Denzel, Isaiah Thomas, Marcus Allen. We're all on the sidelines of this big game where all the stars are out, right? And I'm thinking, man alive, one of these things not like the other, man. I started singing the song. I said, you just got to do one thing for me. Say, my man. And he did. So I'm that goofy bastard who asked me to do it. So those two for my actors. So go ahead and finish your actors. And I'm thinking about my musicians right now.
Yeah. All right. So I got to have two current actors. I'm trying to think who would be in my wheelhouse for acting. I probably would want. Can I take a comedian or two?
Oh yeah, that's fair. He's an entertainer. That's fair.
I want Dave Chappelle.
Of course you do.
Out there, you know, I want Dave Chappelle because I think he might be the funniest living human being on the planet as far as I'm concerned, and he runs deep too. You know, he's an intellectual dude. You know, he's sort of one of my comedy heroes. So I would grab Dave Chappelle, and then for my fourth, man, I'm trying to think. So many of my favorite actors are gone now. Right. You know, I look back on it, but if I'm taking an actor from today, God, fuck it. Give me. I'll take my buddy. I can't take somebody I already know, can I? That kind of defeats the purpose.
Who was your buddy? Who were you going to say?
I was going to say Mike O'Malley. You remember Mike O'Malley, the Rick on ESPN back in the day? Mike's a good guy. You know, I would consider Mike, but no, if I'm going to take like a big name Hollywood actor type, I don't know. I think I'll take Steve Carell. How about that?
Good call.
You know, yeah.
That's a very good
question, man. I'm sitting here.
I am too. I'm trying to figure my last musician here because I'm old school too. Like I go back to the Doobie Brothers. I could get Mike McDonald. I guess he's still like that. That wouldn't be bad, right? I think Dolly Parton would be fun because of the stories. You can bring a female along, right? George Strait would be one of them, country music singer. I'm kind of putting the legends that I want to pick their brain more than I give a damn about their golf game, right? Although Clint's a Pebble Beach guy, like I said. I'm before the show's over in the next couple of minutes, I'm gonna come up with I'm going through rock and roll. I'm going through rap that would make me laugh. I'm going through comedians. Now I would have chosen Sandler, but I've played golf with him.
Yeah,
so we've had some fun doing it. So and that's you can imagine what that charm's like, right? It was awesome. So yeah, man, I'd probably take Pebble Beach and Cypress Point, which I got to play this summer, and I still get like think about it every day. But I need to go back immediately.
How did 16 go at Cypress, brother?
Wind was in our face, and it's it had playing about 270. It really was 260. You have a landing area on the left, you can hit it, but I said, I didn't come here to lay up. So what I did, I swung hard and just missed the right side, landed in the ocean, which I contributed. I cut it too much and the water pushed it. I'm not good enough to go in there and pump a 4-iron into 255 like those guys are, right? But I thought I was, first time I hit 3-wood, and I thought, man, that's a lot of club for me to hit it 260 or whatever it was playing 270. And then I sat there and I said, I'm hitting 3 times. And one time I hit it left and it was in the landing area. The first 2 times both ended up in the water. It was we stood there for 5 minutes afterwards taking pictures. So that's what it was. So intrigued. So you can't get mad because the visual, it's as good a visual just because how it's set up in golf. And then 18, I played 18. I had struggled at Pebble. And now we're talking about Cypress at 16, but the 18th at Pebble, I step up to the tee box with my buddies and I have 3 of my best friends in the world. It was one of those rounds. It was our 4th day. And it was up and down, Rick. You know what I'm saying? You have one of those days where you make a par and then you go double bogey, struggling. But the beauty is so much, and you're walking 4 days because you got caddies. And so I come to 18, and I'm sitting there, and we're playing it back. And I thought, you know what? What's going to happen is I'm going to play well here, and it's going to make my day on this last hole. Inevitably, that's what happens because you want to quit golf. At 9, I told my buddies, I said, if it wasn't for the weather and my friends after this beatdown, because I'm all over the place, I'll see you guys at the clubhouse. I'm going to start drinking up there in the bar. But you fight through. So I smoked a driver to the left of the tree in the middle of the fairway. And then I hit, because the prevailing winds in your face are coming out the ocean. It's hard to get there in 2, even as a pro, those guys. And so I hit a rescue 3 to 90 yards, smack dab where I wanted to hit it. So it's like, damn, my buddies are all saying, damn, Sean, now this looks like you better. Then I hit a little flip wedge in there to 12 feet. But as it goes, I'm thinking, I'm making birdie and walking off here, roll it by 7 feet, miss the comebacker, 3-putt for a double for a bogey, and took a 6 on the par 5. So, but it was worth the first 3 shots. So it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Man.
No, man. Hey, listen, there's no bad experience. You know, you got that. You know, the ball that you put in the ocean at 16, man. That's a good memory. You know what I mean?
It is. So as you can see here. I go back and get all the, call up the Bridgestone and send them because I got to have those there. So I keep them here handy. But I had to have a few of those that day, brother, to make sure that but you're exactly right. I contributed to it, but you can't walk off 16 and say, I didn't hit one in the water. You had to do it. Right? It was worth it.
Because every grade of the game pretty much is dropped one in there as well.
That's right. Well, let's finish with this. I told you 30, 35 minutes. I've kept you an hour, and I can't thank you enough. I could keep you 5 hours. This is a great conversation. I know our listeners and viewers love it. Who's the best team in the NFL? And who are we going to see in February?
Man, that's a great question. I like the Eagles in the NFC. I mean, I hate to give the cliche answer, but I'll have to ride with the Eagles in the NFC. I think that this is the year. I mean, this is the last year of Rich Stadium, Sean, as you know, and
right.
what a storybook ending it would be if the Bills could get the number 1 seed AFC and go to the Super Bowl by winning an AFC championship. Eagles, Bills in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, you got $1 million you got to lay on the line for somebody. Somehow we're going to figure out who the best quarterback playing right now. Your $1 million can get you any quarterback for your franchise. Although that's about 1 day's pay for those fellas. Who's under center for you? You get a choice of all the 32 starters. Who are you taking to lead your team? They all have the same roster. Who is it?
Okay. Is this a 2025 question, or do I get the rest of their career?
Give me both. Give me the next 5 years, and then give me this year alone. But they're all on the same roster. Whoever Philadelphia's team, pick any quarterback, and then over the next 5 years, who should we? If you're making a futures bet, who's it on? That quarterback.
Man, that's a hell of a question too, Sean. For this year, I would probably still rather have Patrick Mahomes than anybody else.
Knows how to win.
I mean, he knows how to win. Statistically, last year, lagged a little bit off of what we've seen him do in the past. But the guy's been to 5 and he's won 3, and that's a resume, man. That's a track record that I'm going to bet on. He's still young. So I would probably go with Mahomes. If I'm looking 5 years down the line, I think I would take Josh Allen. He's a little younger, and I think he's on a real nice trajectory. Like everything, I like everything about Josh Allen.
I do too.
He's such an outstanding quarterback. Seems like he might be a better human being than he is a quarterback. And I say that fully aware that he's the reigning MVP of the league. He's everything that you would want your son to be. He's the guy, and I mean, financial portfolio aside, he's the guy that you'd want your daughter to bring home. There couldn't be a better person to be the face of your franchise in any sport than that kid. So I'm pulling for him anyway. So, that'd be the tiebreaker. There's some other ones. Lamar Jackson, I love Lamar Jackson,
Beast, man. Yeah.
He's
dangerous. Probably the hardest to game
hard.
plan against because of the way he runs the ball.
Yeah. And I love Lamar. I think Lamar is underrated somehow, even after everything that he's accomplished, multiple MVP. I still think that he's underrated by a lot of people. They sleep on him. So I don't want to be guilty of that. So I got to at least name check him because he'd be a great choice for 1 year or 5 years, man. He could be the correct answer to both of those questions, Sean.
Okay, and this doesn't have to be sports related. I'm going to end with this. We started with X, Twitter, how you got on when it was Twitter. It's now X. By the way, it's the Ricky Cobb Show. It's Outkick.com, phenomenal show. Been fortunate to be a guest, and you can catch him at make sure I get it right. Sports 70. Why am I saying it wrong?
So you're because you're thinking
Super
about
Sports. I was going to say at the Sports. I'm saying I got it. You're all over with all your great stuff. I'm still thinking about my musician.
You're thinking about the next wedge that you're going to buy.
Right. Super Sports 70 show. You can get him at Twitter at Super Sports 70s. And it's the best. Super Sports 70s, and it's awesome.
Super 70 Sports, Sean.
What? 70 Sports? Did I say Super Sports 70s?
Super 70s.
Put it this way, you dumb fucker, Sean. It's at the bottom of the screen all show long. Ricky Cobb joins.
Come on, you son of a bitch.
Super 70 Sports. I am inundated at Super 70 Sports on X, and you get the Ricky Cobb Show at Outkick.com. That's where we are. But right there, don't listen to me. Just read this. When you open up Twitter in the morning, or any day when you tuned into it, what bothers you most about Twitter? So when you're on there, what bothers you the most? Because I'm sure you get a lot of reaction from others that maybe inbox you. What's the biggest downfall for you for it?
From Twitter in general, or being the Super 70s guy?
Twitter in general.
The level of outrage and people being pissed at one another over, in some cases, the stupidest fucking trivial things. We live in this world where we've never had it better, really, regardless of who the president is, whether you voted for whoever you voted for. We've never had it better or easier, really, in this society. And I don't know that people have ever bitched and moaned more. And, everything is amplified. It's sort of, social media is like a funhouse mirror, right?
A great point.
You're getting a version of what's going on in America, but it doesn't look like the world that you walk out into when you go out and live your life, right? Like I back in the 80s and the 90s and shit, Sean, even 10 or 15 years ago, I don't think that we were as preoccupied with, how upset we should be at our fellow citizens because of whatever it is they believe that we happen to disagree with. And I think all ideologies and viewpoints are guilty of it to some degree, where we just end up getting down in the mud and the muck, because what we see on social media, right, are the worst, most dramatic examples of everything.
Right.
And in a country of over 300 million people, there's always going to be isolated handful of examples of whatever narrative you want to construct, right? Like if I wanted to say that blind left-handed dentists were evil, well, there's going to be one of them out there somewhere. The law of averages says one of them is going to fucking kill somebody at some point. And then I can say, aha,
told you.
I told you can't trust them, And so we see all that kind of shit. As far as personally with running Super 70s, there's not a lot that bothers me anymore. I've got a pretty thick skin. It takes a minute to get used to being a public figure, and you realize that Sean, better than I do with the length of your career in media and, being an athlete, if you're famous to any degree, even the very modest level of, niche stardom I have acquired, which I even say with, in our role, even calling it that, people treat you like a zoo animal. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, it's
yeah.
not like they don't consider that you have feelings. They don't consider that, you're a real person or whatever. And so
Your kids are actually watching, right? That your kids see this stuff. Right.
Yeah. They'll say anything about you, whatever. So you got to get used to that. But then once you adapt to that and, you develop some calluses and that shit doesn't get to you anymore, really the only thing that perturbs me is when, somebody tells me how to program my own station.
What a shock.
When I tweet something and somebody says, stick to sports or stay in your lane or whatever, and I think to myself, I've been getting up for over 10 years every day, literally every day, Sean. I haven't missed one day in 10 and a half years, from January the 1st, 2015 until today. I haven't missed a day of tweeting, and you could probably count on one hand the number of days that I've tweeted less than 10 times.
Right.
So when you're, Cal Ripken's got nothing on me, and right. So when somebody tells me, here's what you should tweet, I'm always thinking, and I don't want to like follower shame anybody, but I'm always thinking, it's like, motherfucker, I've got almost 800,000 followers. You've got 34. Shut the fuck up. And if you don't like this, then don't follow me.
Right.
Nobody is making you follow me. You know what? If you don't enjoy the free entertainment that I'm doling out, then go enjoy any of the other, millions of options that you have. But that always gets me when somebody says.
It's so funny because you said, Chipper, I'll have a guy go on there. You're just talking about quarterback play. It's not even like I'm saying I do it this way. I'm saying, I see this coverage. Here's how we were taught to read a play out or something. And somebody inevitably will come out, like you said, 35. Hopefully who played, last time they played, that doesn't have anything, was in Pop Warner, and is going to tell me what it was like to be in the huddle. Now I'll listen to you if you want to ask, but then, what do you talk? What do you know? You only played 10 years. You didn't go to the Super Bowl and were the MVP. It's like, yeah, you're right. But man, you got me. And my inevitable comeback is, well, do me a favor. Send me your tape of your career when you were playing in the seventh grade. And let's evaluate that. And if you can't find that tape, then leave me the fuck alone. Okay. But you're right. I got thick skin. I don't get bothered by that, but it is. Or if somebody tells you make a post about you're not vaxxed, or you make a post about, man, look at that, a political post. It's not even political. It's just, yeah, I probably think different. Well, stay in your lane. But that person is allowed to talk about it, but I'm not, as if I don't. The only reason I'm here to exist is to talk football, basketball, and baseball. It's annoying. So I just wonder, I think we're all like that. It's like, I don't get annoyed by much about people challenging me in my own career, because I had some ups and downs, but it's as if I'm not allowed to talk about excellent play by Tom Brady because, well, I wasn't as good as Tom Brady. Well, no shit. And the guy who's telling me I wasn't as good as me. So we'll leave it at that.
You were a lot closer to Tom Brady than that guy was to you.
Let's hope so, man. Let's hope so. So yeah, it's just, it's funny, but I actually love the banner, and I am a glutton for some of that punishment, and not in a negative way, but I like it. And the stuff you were talking about, like when people talk about 15 years ago, and in a locker room when I retired, players aren't worried about race. Everything's racist. Everything's got a problem if you disagree. And those were conversations you wouldn't have. And we just loved everybody. The least racist place I've ever been is the locker room. All what we don't think about. We're family, man. And so whether it's that or politics or the rest of it, but it used to be we could actually disagree and not have to hate each other. So if I disagree with you, I'm supposed to unfollow you, block you, and hate you. It's actually good, because I learn a lot also on social media from guys like you or people I don't know. But it's baffling to me. Everybody, I love that they have a voice, but some people need to understand that they're speaking of staying in your lane. There's certain voices that maybe you shouldn't get on a megaphone and yell it too loud, because you're barking up the wrong tree. Somebody telling Chipper Jones how to hit always fascinates me.
Yeah,
always fascinates me.
And I know that you're not the type of guy who's just like, big time in somebody, like, I played in the NFL.
Never.
But if they step there, and you're fully entitled to say that, because it's like, hey, wait a minute, know your limits.
Right, I'm gonna give you a lot of latitude.
That doesn't mean that they might be right a particular thing and you might be wrong. Just because you were an NFL player doesn't mean that you're always 100% of the time your take is going to end up being right. But you got to have respect for that background and that knowledge. And that's the other thing, man, is you really nailed it. We don't listen to each other anymore. We wait for our turn to talk if people even have the patience to do that.
Right.
Because lots of times they're interrupted. They don't even have patience to let you finish with what you're saying. They've tuned you out. They're not listening to you. And you're right. Where we can really learn is if we talk, we can have a lot of fun talking with the people that we agree on most things with. And, all of us enjoy that, right? I like to hang out with people that I agree with. You and me can sit here and talk about all kinds of things that we both love and know a lot about, and it's going to make for a better camaraderie and a better conversation. But man, the conversations that you have with people that you might not ordinarily think that you're going to be on the same wavelength with, sometimes, man, those are the ones that leave you with food for thought, that really kind of levels you up as a thinker and levels up your perspective as a person. And we're so in our respective trenches now. You can't, there are a lot of people out there that if you say Trump or you say Gavin Newsom or whatever, or Nancy Pelosi, if people just hear the name and like, that's it becomes like whatever their own personal issues are.
Oh yeah, it's a fight, and I gotta hate you, man. I hate you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're my enemy, and I will tell you, bro. When I started at Outkick, I knew for 10 plus years, I very deliberately left politics, 98, 99% out of things. And if I was commenting on politics, I was talking about Dick Nixon or something where nobody really takes that shit personally anymore, right? But what I learned when I went to Outkick, and Outkick being Clay Travis's brand, and Clay's a lightning rod, and there's a lot of people who love him. There's a lot of people who think that he's the worst guy ever or whatever. And once you're perceived as being associated with anybody who is a lightning rod, whether they're on the left, the right, whatever the reason is that they are, Outkick is a brand that some people, immediately they're with it. And some people immediately, they don't even want to hear what you have to say because they see that name. So I knew going in that, I was stepping into the fray somewhat, even though, as my show is, 80, 90%, sports, entertainment, pop culture, fun stuff. I knew that was going to happen, and it did. And I lost a friend, man, a guy that I'd been friends with for almost 20 years. Okay. A guy that when I was going through a divorce, difficult times in a marriage, one of my 2 or 3 go-to guys,
right.
One of those people, somebody that you think is like in your inner,
no matter what. Right.
Yeah. He was a guy that I really thought was one of my 3 or 4, best friends. And one day I text him, say something to him. He responds back to me and says, your political opinions are a deal breaker for me. Good luck. Whatever.
And that was it.
And I thought, this is a guy you had played golf, hung out, been to his home, my home, 20 years of friendship nearly. And the dude breaks up with me because he doesn't like my political opinions. And he and I never talked about politics.
Because you were affiliated with something he didn't like.
I was affiliated with something he didn't like. Now I'm glad I know, you know what I mean? I would rather, as much as that sucked, I'd rather that happen than have this guy in my inner circle for the next 20 years as a guy that I can't really trust.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I cleaned out we chlorinated my friend pool a little bit that day, so, but that just goes to show what kind of person, what kind of person judges. I've got lots of friends that I don't see eye to eye with.
Probably more than the friends. Ricky, and that's a great story and a great point. I never in all my years of playing high school, college, or pro. Now, I may know now after the years you get a little, but I cannot tell you. But after the 10 years I played in football, I don't know one guy's political affiliation. We never talked about it, didn't care. And I was never, now some guys may not like me because of the way I, some of the things I'm pretty fair to all. I love both sides' opinion. I grew up in California, so you can imagine if I'm a conservative, how many people on the other side. But you know what? Most of them I wouldn't know until these last 15 years, social media has kind of created this, and we're supposed to hate people. I've never lost a friend on my end because of their politics, ever, never. But you're right. You're finding, man, some people disappear and then they start to say stuff. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But to lose somebody in that inner 4 or 5 close friends you have over that, it's gut wrenching. But you're right. I want to know now, before 20 years from now, you decide to bail on me and we've established even a better friendship. No thanks. That's a horrible story. And that's the problem. That's the problem with, even if you're just joking about something, it's a good comedy. We need more Dave Chappelle's to make fun of all politicians, make fun of all the people who lose their friggin' mind over somebody's opinion. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Hey, the amount of pearl clutching and hurt feelings. I mean, look, I don't want to sound like the stereotypical, old guy, get off my lawn stuff. But like, sometimes you do just need to rub a little dirt on it and you'll be okay.
Fact.
Everybody now, if they get their feelings hurt, it's an act of violence. No, it's really not.
Right.
Toughen up, Buttercup.
A real act of violence, then it undercuts the stuff when it really is an act of violence. It really is a racist kind. Exactly. And to my guy here, Ben Sanders, Orange Glen High School, my Patriots, before OG was cool. Once a Patriot, always a Patriot. From Ben and Valerie Sanders, Towner, class of 81, 82. My era. So thank you. You're exactly right. I ain't losing friends over it. And guess what? But I ain't changing how I feel. If you think you're going to back me off, my balls are going to dangle. I'm not walking away because somebody doesn't like me over an opinion. And my man, we got to do this again. I know I kept you way too long. I got to pay you for this shit. This is like, you've come on and given me, it's like you're the person out there campaigning. It's phenomenal. I mean, for us on here, your widespread, please retweet it because all your friends need to come and hear you. I know I need to come and hear you on here. I'll cherry pick, but man, just phenomenal stuff by you, Ricky. I've looked forward to this. It's great being on your show, but you're more interesting than I am. And I think everybody found that out today. And if we ever want to do a golf podcast, brother, we can create something. I promise you on YouTube.
Hey, now. Hey, listen.
You think I'm bullshitting? I ain't bullshitting now.
No, man, listen. Let's talk.
Let's talk. We can, because our access will be great, but the comments and fun will even be better, man. I would love that.
Let's talk about it. I'll have to work on my game, but
okay, hell, it'll even be better if we can't score. If we can't break 80, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I can get some comic relief of a different kind.
There you go. And we'll have there'll be a cocktail or two on the golf course at Super 70 Sports, guys. You want to go there? You get great. Go in there and look at the vintage T-shirts as well. It's the Ricky Cobb Show as well on Outkick.com. There is no better follow, in my opinion, on Twitter. And he's one of the best. I almost feel like we've been friends for a long time and we have still never met in person, but that will happen, brother. And I can't wait for it. And I have a hunch that'll be one of my favorite foursomes. So I look forward to it on the golf course, brother. And anytime you need me, but I'd love to have you back.
Hey, absolutely. Listen, anytime. I'm happy to come on, and I got to get you back on a few times.
I'm here for you whenever you want me, brother. I appreciate you.
We can do some home and homes.
I would love that. Any day you want. Thank you and good luck. And we'll talk soon. And let's keep up on what we were just talking about. I look forward to that.
All right. Thank you, my brother.
There you go, Ricky. Thank you very much. My favorite, man. Love him. Appreciate the time. Man, now that's an uplifting day. Can you imagine? And we all have, maybe not quite as close to in their circle of friends that Ricky is, but can you imagine? Because you're affiliated, because you just work and you're paying, earning a living, regardless how you vote. Even if you were a hardcore liberal or hardcore conservative, one way or the other, or you mentioned something, can you imagine losing a guy via text, like Ricky said, breaking up over the fact that he doesn't like your political views? The truth of the matter is, it comes down to this: then he's a horseshit friend anyway, and it's too bad we all didn't find out sooner. Ricky Cobb, the best. Again, at Super 70 Sports. Phenomenal follow and hilarious. If you're in a bad mood, you'll love it and you'll laugh your ass off. And it's great. And the Ricky Cobb Show at Outkick.com. And that's great, too, because he does a phenomenal job and his team over there. And we're grateful to have him here on Unpaved. Before we go, Triple E, and even if you don't have it at the bottom, it's Chef IQ. I've told you guys about Chef IQ. It is off the charts. Now, listen, we all like to grill. Labor Day's coming up, correct? Labor Day. Listen, up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the heat resistance for the thermometer that goes in. I've got a couple of their instant ice machines that come to me that I can have out there right by the beer. We all have egos when we barbecue, right? We all do. Hey, man, did you see my ribs? Did you see my steak? Well, you want it to perfection. Sometimes you just need a little help to make sure it's done. Not just good, but great. It's the ultimate precision, the ultimate range. It is 70 hours of battery. It's at Chef IQ. Go get the app, Chef IQ. You get to choose your doneness with this incredible thermometer. Again, 70 hours of battery life. You go in there, medium rare. It's going to tell you exactly when medium rare comes. You got the IQ, Chef IQ mini oven. Go get the Chef IQ. It's simple to handle. You can see it right there. The simple oven, the ice maker, and it's bam, 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 and you got it done. And so easy to get done, whether it's the oven or this thermometer, and the Smart Hub, which is also a Wi-Fi based station, wirelessly charges your IQ Sense probes and recharges with the USB. And it's powered by Chef IQ app. IQ intelligence, Chef IQ predicts when your food will finish cooking, predicts it, and then delivers it. With push notifications through the app, you'll never have to worry about undercooking or overcooking, or, man, did I miss it? Did I do it enough? I can't remember. Was it 10 minutes or 12 minutes? They'll know. And plus, explore hundreds of guided cooking recipes that sync with IQ Sense. It's the Chef IQ app. It's taken my grilling to a whole new level. Labor Day is going to be lit, literally, on the grill, and I'll have the ice machine there. You get the oven. There's no better. It's you think, how did it take so long for somebody to come up with this brilliant idea, with this brilliant invention? Well, Chef IQ has. It's in my house. It's here. I use it. And I'm going to tell you what, matter of fact, even if you tell your buddies when they all come over, they don't even need to know, man, how did you cook this so good? Give them the whisper, but you should spread it loud and clear when you do it, because that steak comes out, or that burger, or whatever it is that you're cooking, you're going to love it. It's Chef IQ. Go get this app. It is not only a difference maker, it may be in your chef world, a life changer. Chef IQ. Go get that app at Chef IQ. Triple E, great stuff today, man. I know that's your first experience with my guy, Ricky Cobb, and he's awesome, isn't he? I'm so caught up in it. Super 70 show at Super 7. I can't even. I'm so enamored with my guests. I can't even remember where I can find him. But you saw it all day. He's one of my favorites, and that guy you can listen to talk forever because he's got a wide variety. He's smarter than all of us too, because he was a professor for a long time until he woke up one morning, as he told you. If you got in late, go listen to the full podcast. Woke up one day and said, you know what? I'm going to do something different. And here he is, lighting it up at the Super 70 Sports and the Ricky Cobb Show on Outkick. Go check it out. You'll find yourself laughing by yourself. And when people walk by, they'll be like, what are you laughing at? Bam. Tell them about that. Ricky Cobb, great. One of my favorite people, but one of the best guests. And for a guy I've never met, love it. We'll see you guys tomorrow right here on Unpaved as we head into Friday. Remember, 11 o'clock, I think, Central Time. We got Iowa State and we got Kansas State. One of the great quarterbacks in the country that you're not talking enough about, Avery Johnson. Got to coach that kid in an All-American game when I was his coordinator. He's at a different level of not only toughness, but unique. Check out that game. And it's in Dublin, Ireland. We should all be drinking a pint Saturday morning and get back to Chef IQ. Get that grill popped out. It's a good time to start. Football is here. For Triple E and Laura behind the scenes, I'm Sean, and to Ricky Cobb, phenomenal, my man. Super 70s Sports on Twitter, on X, and at the Ricky Cobb Show, Outkick.com. It's been a great day. Thank you guys for being a part of it. And it's kind of nice to get off the serious stuff sometimes and just add a little levity. And nobody's better at it than him. I'm Sean. We'll see you guys tomorrow.